Good evening, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. My name is Laurie Kirk and I'm from APMG in Canberra, and welcome you as the host for this evening's webinar on getting ready for DevOps with DASA. The speakers this evening are myself, but also Deborah Burton. I'd like to welcome Deborah Burton, Managing Director of the DevOps Agile Skills Association, DASA. Paul Mateos. Paul, welcome from Melbourne, Australia. Paul's from Pufferfish Solutions, and Margaret Choong, our Regional Manager for APMG in ASEAN and Japan. Just some housekeeping before we get started. This session is being recorded. A follow-up will be sent to you. Please submit your questions. There is a question box in the control panel. Submit your questions at any time. And your feedback is certainly welcome and valuable, and our email address and contacts are provided. So the session is recorded, but we'll also provide a copy of the slides that we will be showing the slide pack. The interesting thing today, we'd like to welcome people, and I'd take particular welcome to Deborah Burton from DASA. Good morning, Deborah. How are you today?
Well, thank you, Laurie. It's really a pleasure to have the opportunity to be with you today, and Paul and MK. And hello, everyone out there in Manila. I am very excited to have the opportunity to speak to you today about the DevOps Agile Skills Association. So a little bit about me. My day job is managing the day-to-day operations of DASA, but my passion is the opportunity to talk to folks like yourself about what we see happening in terms of organizations going through their IT transformational journeys. I've spent most of my career in IT with 20 plus years at Hewlett-Packard, and I've had various roles in all types of hardware, software, and IT best practices. So I have lived a lot of the things that I see happening in the market today. And one of the biggest changes that I'm experiencing is, and it's also one of the reasons that we started the DevOps Agile Skills Association, or DASA, is because digital business models are driving IT transformational change. What we're seeing is old waterfall approaches are now passe. Software is everywhere and driving change. And many C-level executives are looking and trying to figure out, what does DevOps mean to their organizations and to their people, and how do they change that? That's why back in 2016, we began to think about, forming an organization to help IT professionals learn how to work in this new IT way of working called DevOps. I'm going to talk to you in a bit about the evolution to DevOps, but what we knew straight out back in 2016 was there's no definitive body of knowledge that was out there around DevOps. I mean, in the past, when you had ITIL and the IT service management movement was born, you had those 5 books that went out there and kind of tamed the wild, wild west. If you look at other best practices like TOGAF or like COBIT, there are bodies of knowledge out there that help individuals figure out how to get from point A to point B. That wasn't the case with DevOps. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some amazing books out there, things like the Phoenix Project and the DevOps Handbook, Continuous Delivery. And the early adopters of DevOps, that's exactly what they did. They read those books and they tried to figure it out themselves. But as DevOps is becoming more and more popular, what we realized is that we needed to build a competence model and a certification path to help organizations learn how to work in this new IT way of working. Now, one of the key drivers for that was the fact that in this always on, always available world, we're finding that software development methodologies they keep evolving. And big enterprise organizations, they keep running to catch up. When you take a look at the waterfall approach, and that's from the 1970s, it was a very structured approach to building a product or service. People were thinking about everything they'd want to put in that product from the design phase to before they started to build. And then once they started to build, it was difficult to change. It was difficult to do things because of the siloed approach, the way the teams were working. A lot of great subject matter experts, but all doing their own part of the value chain and not working cohesively together. And then there was the Agile software development method. And think about Agile. Boy, did that take off. But that was from 2001. And that came out with the Agile Manifesto. And it really allowed developers, programmers to build chunks of innovation that they could deploy in terms of a product or service and get it out there quickly. And Agile really transformed and helped teams work in a different way. And that was tremendous. But the problem happened when the fact that Agile stopped at the door of production. And why was that? Because the 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 operations people, the people that own the quality assurance, the people that have the service level agreements, the people that have that man the service desk, the people that are close to the client, there was absolutely no way they were going to let a new release go out into a live environment that they hadn't tested themselves, that they didn't know that it was going to perform and meet the needs of that customer. It stopped at the doors. And that's why DevOps was born. And DevOps is just a real collaboration between development and production. And it really needs people that are working together, high performance IT, to meet the digital performance metrics that are out there today. And that's why DevOps is so popular. And I know all of you have heard of these companies that are on this slide. And I put them here because I want you to understand how they changed us. They changed us with these digital business models that we've been using for decades. Think about it. Spotify is 13 years old. Google is 20 years old. Amazon is 24 years old. Airbnb is 10 years old. Uber, 10 years old. Apple, bless them, 42 years old, and Apple Pay is 5 years old. Netflix, 21 years old. We've been using these services. We've been using innovative iPhones and iPads and mobility and mobile devices. We have bulletproof internet. We live in a time that's always on and always available. These innovators changed us. We like the convenience. We like at least having mobility to do our banking, to get to our locations using Google Maps. We like the convenience of being able to order our things online and have them magically show up at our door at Christmas time, wrapped in the packages that they're supposed to be with the private note that we've sent. We like it. We like Netflix. We like having great content at an affordable price, commercial free, where we can binge watch us until our heart desires. We've changed. They've changed us. So what is driving this move, this adoption to DevOps? What's really behind that? And at the end of the day, we need to acknowledge the fact it's you and me. We like it. We're not going back. We're not giving it up. And that means the organizations, the companies, the way that we expect them. Because guess what happens when they don't? When we find that a trusted application that we really depend on, doesn't work or meet our requirements, either it's not functioning well or the service is not so good, what do we do? Think about what you do. You delete it. And then you go to the App Store. And you may do something that when you go to the App Store this time that you didn't do the first time. And what you do is you actually read the evaluations and what other people are saying and how they're rating that application that you might replace it with. And then once you know that it's a good, bulletproof application and that many people like it and use it, you'll download it and you'll use it. That's what traditional IT is facing today. How do they build these digital business models? How do they meet the performance metrics that they need to be successful? And I say it starts at home with their teams and with their people. But let me assure you, DevOps isn't easy. Don't believe it for a moment. If someone tells you it's easy, then they really do not know what they're talking about unless they're a brand spanking new startup with no legacy and no baggage and they can run from the beginning. But that's a very small population. Most of the established brick and mortar organizations that are out there that are building their digital business models are dealing with a lot of change. It's not easy. There are cultural differences. The teams are different. The tools they use are different. The priorities are different. The management are different. Their skills gaps are different. That is the fact. And as more and more companies are trying to address that, they're trying to figure out how they can get their teams ready and how they can chart their futures to ensure that they're not displaced by some up and coming new service or some up and coming new competitor that they didn't even see come out of the woodwork. So the key question they're asking themselves is, what do they need to prepare? How do they get their teams ready? How do they do this new IT way of working? What competencies do they need? How can they flourish? And that's how we stepped in. That's when we realized that by building a competence model and a certification path, we could help IT professionals and organizations reach their skills. If you look at this slide, you see great subject matter experts that are brilliant at what they do. They're brilliant, and there'll always be a need for subject matter experts that will never go away. But what we know for certain is that they have to become more T-shaped. They have to be able to do more than one thing. It's not like the old days in the waterfall approach. If something broke, it could take them maybe 2 weeks to fix it. If you did something that was customized and outside of the box, it might take a half a year to get something fixed or updated or current to where you expected it. Not in today's world. It is not possible. So our competence model that we built based on 4 skill areas and 8 knowledge areas helps get IT professionals to become more T-shaped. And I'll talk to you about that in a second, because that is incredibly important to bring your people up to speed to be successful in a DevOps environment. So what does it look like, these skill and knowledge areas? Well, let me talk about the skill areas first. Skills, soft skills, things that are important are things like courage. Courage, you need courage if you're going to be doing something for the first time in your organization. with the movement toward DevOps, it was the business unit managers that started it. Those folks that were investing in Agile and the way that, Agile helped them to work cooperatively together and reduce waste. They were investing in Agile, but then they still found there was a problem with trying to deliver the way they wanted to. So it took courage for them to say, let's try to do this DevOps. Because courage means that they're coaching, they're having evangelism, they're self-confident, they're looking to fail fast so that they can move forward. And then there's team building. And team building is really understanding the other's point of view. It's about collaboration and mutual accountability, a common purpose. You ride with your team. You're focused on the success of your client and what you're doing. And then there's that DevOps leadership. That's when you're really facilitating teams to be high performers. You do it with humility and transparency. You look at the service lifecycle mindset and you figure out what you need to do in terms of bringing your stakeholders along, the other senior leaders in the organization that also have to change. And as IT, we've been talking about continuous improvement as long as IT has been out there. How do we continually improve? How do we figure out what we do? How do we have that Kaizen mindset to do it right the first time, that knowledge sharing, and to be adaptive? Those are the skills we fundamentally believe that you need to have to go and work in a DevOps way. But there's also the knowledge areas. And these knowledge areas are critical for organizations to understand what they're building, how they're building, and if it's meeting and achieving the goals of the client. When you think about business value optimization, your use of IT service, how does that look like in real life? Do you have feedback loops? Do you use customer comments? Do you share that with the team? What's your service level management look like? When is the definition done? What's the business activities and the performance monitoring that you're doing? Are you optimizing the value of your business, of your company? And then there's that business analysis. Those are looking and making sure you have the functional and the non-functional requirements. The longer term development of the business processes based on the translation of what's happening in the market and the market developments. Are you doing that analysis? Are you refining that to make sure you're achieving the outcomes of your organization? Architecture and design, that's ensuring there's a fit between the development and current situation and the overall service design, the patterns, the styles. And programming, right? We talk so much about programming, that software engineering, that everything is code. We say that software is eating the world for a reason. That data management, how are you doing it? Continuous delivery, that's about that automated testing. That's about thinking about deployment, release management. How are you doing your configuration management? How are you doing your version control? How are you utilizing the cloud? Are you doing containerization? Are you doing feature-driven delivery? And then there's those test specifications. And I always say this, the role of the testers have never been more important. The design of test cases, test concepts, that infrastructure engineering, that technical monitoring, performance management, and of course, risk and security and compliance. All of these are areas that we feel that IT professionals must grasp to be successful in transitioning from the older IT way of working to the new IT way of working. What are we trying to get to? We're trying to get to going from where we in the past we had role-based professionals moving to team-based, multi-skilled team-based professionals working together coherently, being able to deliver a product or service. So if one person on that team, if for some reason they're not available, that product doesn't stop and wait. There's other people on the team that can pick it up and do the heavy lifting. That's when you know that you're working in a DevOps way that's successful. So we built our competence model based on those 4 skill areas and those 8 knowledge areas. And we built a certification path to support that. So when you take a look at our DASA DevOps fundamentals, and Paul's going to talk to you about that in detail when he goes through his presentation, but this is the foundational know. How do you know what you don't know? With this fundamentals course, you will know, you'll get a history of the DevOps movement, but you'll not only learn about DevOps, you'll learn about lean and cloud. You'll learn so much about how we got to where we are today so that everybody can have that fundamental same knowledge and able to understand each other and what's different and how they need to work together. And then we have that professional level, and the professional levels is the knowing and applying. So we have the enable and scale, where you're actually looking at how you build a product or service, and if you have multiple DevOps teams, how you scale that to meet the requirements of your client. We have the specify and verify. This is normally those professionals that are very close to the client, that understand what that product and service needs to look like. They specify and verify. That's what needs to be built. And then you have the create and deliver folks. And these are the folks that are out there building, programming, and making sure that product and service meets the requirements of that client. The other area that is so important is that leadership level. What we know for sure is you're not going to get your senior leaders setting in a 2 or 3 day DevOps fundamentals class, and you're definitely not going to get them setting in a 2 or 3 day professional level. What they need are the skills and the knowledge to do the jobs they need to do, not only to bring their teams along, but to have that knowledge to also grow other people in their organization and help them with their career path. So we have the product owner. And what's nice about the DASA DevOps product owner is they actually sit in the team, and they act as the service lifecycle manager there, helping call the day-to-day shots of what should be focused on, what should be built, and what should be happening in the team. Then we have the DASA DevOps leader, and these are the folks that are really looking at the vision and helping the organization navigate their way as they transition to a DevOps way of working and keeping everything together. And the coach has never been more important, because the coaches are out there and they're actually giving the practical hands-on guidance that help their teams achieve their goals. So that's the competence model and the certification scheme that we have had in place, and that has helped hundreds and hundreds of individuals, thousands actually of individuals, meet and begin to work in a DevOps way of working. The other thing that we've done is, because I get the question quite a bit, when people are trying to figure out what they don't know, I always ask the question, how do you know what you don't know? A chance to get a glimpse of knowing what you don't know is with our DASA DevOps Quick Scan. And it's on the DASA website. If you go to scan.devopsagileskills.org, you'll find a 24 question assessment there. And it's actually going to be asking 2 questions per competence model. So there are 2 questions per for each of the competences, the 12 competences that are out there. And at the end of it, you will get a real view of what your fingerprint looks like. And it's interesting because a lot of folks are surprised because they think they know a lot about a certain thing, and that may or may not be the case. Or they think they didn't know a lot about a certain characteristic and they're blown away by what they know. So I really do encourage you to go to the DASA website and take the scan. Figure out where you are today, and then figure out how and what you can do to go out there and help your organizations, first help yourself and then help your organizations move to a DevOps way of working. So it's really been a pleasure to speak with you today. I really enjoyed it. So I'm going to now turn it over to Laurie. I understand that Moon has a bit of a voice problem, so I hope that you feel better, Moon. And Laurie, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Ladies and gentlemen, we had tonight Mungkut Choong is our regional manager in ASEAN, but Mungkut has unfortunately lost his voice. Anyone that's been going through with KL has seen the terrible haze, and unfortunately Mungkut has fallen foul of that. But the purpose of today, Mungkut has been in KL for over 10 years and over 14 years experience in training accreditation. And picking up on some of the areas that Deborah has just said, we've seen that there's been a real need to look at different skills and operations and different skills and competencies that are needed to address what we're calling the Industrial Revolution 4.0. Now, you may have seen this if we talk about if you haven't heard this point, well, the good thing is you're all part of the IR 4.0, and your reason that is that all of you are either contributing to or receiving the benefits. If we think of the first industrial revolution, where we moved through mechanisation through water and steam power, the second being where we started to use mass production and assembly lines, and the third with computerisation, we're now seeing that automation is taking place. And what are some of the drivers for this? Digitisation and integration of vertical and horizontal changes. We're seeing that there's a demand for digitisation of products and service offerings, and a reliance on the use of big data. And the need for connectivity and mobility has never been as great as what it is at the moment. And the reason that MK and I've discussed this is at great length is that particularly in Southeast Asia, we're finding that there's a great demand for the need to integrate businesses, and that's where DASA DevOps is coming in. It will help improve continuous delivery and improve that collaboration between businesses. What are some of the examples when we look through, and I urge you to have a look at people say, well, what are some of why should we actually be integrating? Why should we go through this journey? You know, there are examples where we're looking at automation that is coming through. Straight away, we're seeing greater demands where we're seeing automatization of logistics and supply chains. You know, using a connected supply chain where we're having problems with weather. As we're going through, a weather delay can tie up a shipment. A connected system can help you proactively adjust. And we're starting also, this shouldn't be a foreign concept. If you look at the way that we've, even some of the cars that we have, the car that I drove home tonight has semi-automated. It's sort of, when you look through, you've got guidance when you move a lane. You can either press a button, it'll integrate the systems so you'll keep on the one lane. Now think about that example, and that's where we're moving with DASA DevOps, is to help people think about integrating those functions so we do actually get better productivity. The key thing, as Mungkut has put on his slide, is if it's not DASA, then it's definitely not about skills affirmation. So that skills affirmation is where I'd like to talk and introduce Paul. Paul is from Pufferfish Solutions in Melbourne. And Paul, I'd like to hand over to you to give your presentation. We asked Paul tonight because Deborah set the scenes about DASA. I've indicated a little bit of a need that's coming through that we're seeing for addressing IR4. And now I'd like to talk to Paul about his experience as a trainer and a consultant. Welcome, Paul.
Thanks very much, Laurie. First of all, I'd just like to say I've sat in many webinars and conferences where Deborah was the lead speaker, keynote speaker at times, and she's actually the most entertaining. So hopefully everyone can get a chance to hear Deborah speak again in a future webinar or conference. So I'm excited, really excited to be part of this webinar. One, because I share the same platform as Deborah, which is great. But not only that, not only being a member of the DASA community, but also as a Filipino who is really passionate about bringing DASA DevOps to my home nation. So I was born and raised in the Philippines on a coconut plantation in southeast of Luzon, and we migrated to Australia with my parents, where I studied university and got my bachelor's in applied computing. For the last 2 decades, I've been building my IT career and really looking at the broader spectrum of IT, software development, test management, test automation, DevOps engineering and consultancy, and most recently, application performance management consulting. I really saw a need for a holistic service, so I decided to create Pufferfish Solutions, and more information about that can be seen on my website. So who is the DevOps Fundamentals course for? As Deborah was alluding to, it is our fundamentals course, so it's our foundation. So we want to try to bring you a really broad breadth of knowledge across all topics related to DevOps. So it's not for technical people, non-technical people, it's really for everybody. And actually it's a great advantage having a good mix of people in the room. We get a lot of good discussions from varying perspectives, and it really shows a true community, a true sense of what it feels like when people are tackling real-world DevOps problems. We have a strong focus on culture during the course. There are a lot of modules, and you know, it's a 3-day, very intensive event. But really, culture plays a big part, and sort of is a center focus. So team culture, as Deborah was trying to describe there, is, you know, we do look at what the traditional role-based organizations are, and how a transformation to a more team-based approach is done. And it's quite difficult in many organizations, but hopefully the foundations course and the guidance that we give show you a path that you can take on board. Now, we also look at organizational culture. I mean, a big part of what's going on at the moment is delivering into production really fast with high quality, and being able to cater for those customer demands. So organizational culture has really shifted in the last few years, where organizations are putting a lot more pressure on themselves to try to cater for those customer demands. And we need to understand that so that we can work within these new ways of working. Individual behavior is quite important. In DevOps, as a team member, I'll just go back. As a team member of a DevOps organization or a DevOps team, sometimes it's quite difficult to find your footing. You're a developer who now has to look at other areas of the project, or you're a non-technical person who may perhaps be called upon to help out with. We really try to build that T-shaped skills approach within our team, DevOps teams. And we have what's called the 6 principles of DevOps, and that really assists us and guides us to better shape the way we can be part of that high-performing team. So some of those principles are customer-centric action, where we focus a lot on what the customer needs rather than perhaps the great and cool features that we may want to get into production. We think about creating with the end in mind. So things like automated testing, proactive monitoring, and building through code. That's all done in the beginning rather than having to tackle those hurdles later. End-to-end responsibility. Each person has a complete picture of what's going on, and that team themselves can deliver autonomously without too much assistance from anybody else. And other things like continuous improvement and obviously automation. Automate everything you can. We'll look at automation in our next slide. As I was saying, automation is key. Actually, automation is something I'm really passionate about. It's actually my day job. So what I do, coming from a development world and moving into test automation and then into DevOps, I see automation as the real key driver. Without automation, it makes a lot of things quite difficult. So we look at everything as code: our applications, our tests, our deployments, our configurations, our compliance, our security. At the moment, I'm looking at active monitoring. If we place it in code, we can version control and we can implement those solutions at a much rapid rate than if we were to do it manually. Now, CI/CD is critical, but it's not everything. And when we talk about DevOps and we think about CI/CD, we think that both is one and the same. But actually, this is where a lot of DevOps transformations fail. They rely heavily on CI/CD, and then they forget about the core problems. And a lot of those core problems are people problems. Emergence of cloud technologies in the last decades has been phenomenal. Gartner here has presented a small timeline of the emergence of cloud and their current predictions at the moment. We're looking at somewhere in the vicinity of $200 billion spend for 2019 worldwide. So there's a massive movement into cloud. And automation is crucial for looking and working in the cloud space. Scaling out your solution. That's another essential part of DevOps and another essential part of being able to cater for those customer demands. We've all experienced being on a website when there's a great sale on and another 100,000 people jump on to buy the same products, and we just can't access the website to do our transaction. So being able to scale out on those when customers require is quite important. So we look at that during our course. We look at all these automation solutions and how it plays a really important part in delivering value to our customers. The best part about attending the DevOps Fundamentals course is that you get me. So what I mean by that is I'm only a trainer part-time, but actually I'm a full-time DevOps consultant. So I live and breathe the same challenges you do. So during my course, we look at real-world examples from the biggest companies in Australia, some of which that I'm still consulting within. Now, I also love team building. I think that if we can play games and have fun at the same time while going through this really, really intensive 3-day course, a lot of that knowledge starts to sink in a lot deeper. And as well as that, it just breaks up the day and makes it a lot more entertaining. Q&A, I don't leave this till the end. I have Q&A all throughout the day. With Q&A, we get your real world problems and make it part of the modules. So we can address and tackle the challenges you're currently facing, rather than giving you a big Q&A session at the end. And not only that, Q&A will also last forever. You've got me. You'll have access to me after the course. You can contact me as much as you can, as you want afterwards, and that's really part of building that community and that community sense that DASA really tries to promote. So about the course, and we do also have a special coupon for our attendees tonight. All the information about the course is on our website, Pufferfish Solutions/training. So please go there, and there's also a syllabus that you can download. And as I say, all the details are there, but some of the details we can share here. So the date of the course will definitely be in Manila on the 18th of November, 3 days, 18th to the 20th. So that's a Monday, Tuesday, and a Wednesday. It's very intensive, as I say. So we'll be spending all day with lunch, and it's going to be fully catered. So there is a coupon code if it comes up, hopefully. There we go. So the coupon code that we'd love you to use is Super Early Manila. This coupon code gives you a 50% off for the first 10 people for our course. So got to be quick to get this one. If you do miss out on the Super Early Manila coupon code, I have also created a ticket there for our webinar participants, and they will get a 30% off the marked price. It's only limited to 25 people, so you need to be quick to invite your colleagues, and hopefully we can get a full class of, as I said, varying disciplines and experiences, and hopefully we can get really good discussions about how DevOps can work in your workplace. So that's it for me, Laurie. Yeah, I'll take questions at the end, and as I say, more information on our website there.
Thank you very much, Paul. Look, I know I want to apologise, people. We've had that connectivity issue with Deborah. It was a really unfortunate thing. We will re-record that session. But Paul, thanks for bringing that up. I think one of the key things that you're getting when we're looking at the DevOps is the practical application of some of the work that we're doing. We have had a number of questions. I've got 3 quick ones that I'll just get through here. The first one that I'm going to ask for Deborah and then Paul is, the person said, why are skills and competencies so important for DevOps? And I think there's if we just maybe an answer there, Deborah and then Paul.
Well, the question is, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. It's all good now. Thanks, Deborah. So.
Yes, of course, now it works. Again, apologies everyone for the bad audio, but as Laurie mentioned, I will re-record my session. So when you get the recording, it will be there for you. So again, the question is, why are skills and knowledge important, Laurie?
That's right.
So they're important because with the changing of the way that IT has now has to build products and services to meet the performance metrics of digital business models. People, and Paul alluded to this, need to have a more T-shaped skills, which means they need to be able to do more than one thing. So skills in terms of those soft skills that I tried to talk about in terms of the 4 areas, things like courage, team building, DevOps leadership, and continuous improvement, but then also those knowledge areas. Everyone should have at least a fundamental understanding of things like a business analysis, business value optimization, programming, security, and more. That's really important and able to work effectively as a team to deliver digital products and solutions. And Paul, I don't know if you have something to add to that.
Yes, Deborah. I guess my take is a little bit different. So as I said, I am a DevOps consultant. And so I work around DevOps consultants all day, every day. And it seems to me that they come from a very either network background or a programming background, and they carry this on to their DevOps journey. And because they haven't taken up a certification such as the DASA DevOps Fundamentals, they miss out on a lot of the key knowledge areas, as you were saying, and a lot of the key skills areas that we try to promote as well. So they're not a complete package. And they keep promoting themselves as that DevOps person or that DevOps consultant. But when it comes to things like how do we improve continuity within the business place, or how do we motivate our team to become more high performing, they struggle. They struggle to find the words or the ability to be able to service their customer in that way. They might be great at implementing new tools, developing cloud solutions, and still tag themselves as DevOps consultants. But really, what the Australian market is looking for and is in desperate need is people with the complete package. And I think with the DASA fundamentals, it really gives that opportunity for a budding consultant who wants to service the Philippine and Australian market in a more holistic way, with a lot more tools under their tool belt. So that's why I think this course is important, and that's why I think competency is important. It really just builds that complete package as a DevOps consultant.
Okay, thanks, Paul. We've got another question from Lucy. Lucy said, why does this make DevOps, the DASA approach to DevOps, why is it unique and a better approach? I suppose we're just conscious of our time. I'm interested in your thoughts, Deborah and Paul.
I think what makes us unique is the fact that we built a competence model, and that competence model is there to provide knowledge for individuals to find ways to upskill themselves, to do exactly what Paul was saying, be able to perform at the level that they need to within their organizations, so that they can be successful in their transformational journeys.
Thanks, and Paul?
The feedback I get, Laurie, after my course is that there's new discoveries. I get very technical people who just did not have the perspective of how to communicate, how to build courage within their team. And others, such as non-technical people, starting to see the criticality of automation and the importance of microservices and all the technologies and tools that come with a DevOps complete package. So, the answers come from the feedback that my participants give me afterwards.
And that's a question a person has said, in the course to be run in Manila, what kind of classroom experience can I expect? This will be our final question, and some concluding comments.
Yeah, great, Laurie. One, first of all, there's great food. I've guaranteed that. That's crucial in my eyes. I've booked a really good place, Legend Villas, just outside of Makati, a few kilometers. Now, I'm a terrible comic, but I try my best. So I make it very, very entertaining. And as I say, I'm not a full-time trainer, so it's not all about theory. A lot of it is practical knowledge that I bring with me from many of my customers and clients here in Australia, and that's open to all my participants to take from me. And yeah, it's just a small group. I don't make it too big. 25 is my max. Others go larger. I think that's a good number to be able to provide a really entertaining and valuable course.
Okay. Any final comments there, Deborah, before we close?
I would just like to thank everyone for joining us. I do encourage you, though, to join Paul for his course. He is, as he has mentioned, he's not only delivering a training, but he lives this every single day. So take the opportunity and sign up. And, we look forward to hearing from you and your experience once you've had an opportunity to try out the DASA DevOps fundamentals. Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you very much, Deborah. And on behalf of APMG, Pufferfish and DASA, we'd like to thank you very much this evening for your participation. There are some additional questions that maybe have come in, but we've run out of time, but I will get back to you on those. So thank you very much for attending, everybody. Good night.